Hey everyone, welcome to a talk I've been really excited about, which is called How to Apply AI to Solve Valuable Business Problems. My name is Gary Sheng. I am co-founder and director of the Applied AI Society, which is all about helping people shrink the amount of time it takes for them to get their first dollar in the new applied AI economy. We're super excited that we were able to launch with the support of OpenTeams and OT Incubator, which are really helping a lot of businesses shepherd themselves into this new economy. I'm joined today by four amazing people that I learned a lot from on what this moment means, and they've all found a really great way to add a lot of value and build good livelihoods in this new applied AI economy. So what I'm going to do is have each of them introduce themselves real quick and at high level explain where their focus is on as these new emerging opportunities present themselves. So Michael, why don't you start?
Hey everyone, I'm Michael Daigler. I'm one of the co-founders of AITX Community, which is a community for AI engineers and entrepreneurs across the state of Texas. So we do monthly meetups, hackathons, private dinners, workshops, things like that. And our main goal is to really give more opportunities to the talent here in the state so they don't have to leave to the Bay Area or New York City. Mm-hmm. I'm also a developer advocate at Apify, which is essentially like a platform where you get real-time internet data for social media or websites for AI agents. And my main focus right now is currently trying to automate more of the community operations for AITX community so I can keep focusing on more of the big picture things and future events that we want to do.
It makes sense that a leading AI community would figure out how to apply AI to make the community more streamlined and everything. Go ahead, Rostam.
Hey guys, I'm Rostam Mahabadi. I've been in the AI space for about a year and a half now. I ran my own consulting firm and helped Series B companies and below implement AI agents into production. And then now I'm working at a company that's trying to break down the walls of what hedge funds used to offer, but offer to people who don't have $500,000, $1 million to invest.
Nice. Thank you.
Nice.
Welcome.
Jordan Hill. I run Organized AI and collaborate with these guys quite a bit on community stuff. I'm trying to bring coding to an AI native community. So my first hackathon was last year in June, and we focused on vibe coding when it was a new thing, and we had workshops highlighting each and every one of those things. I parlayed that into working with companies. I work with, the entire thing. I would say e-com, I would say service-based, et cetera, et cetera. My main thing is setting up systems so that they can start to use AI effectively in their business. So real boots on the ground, starting with the frameworks and benchmarking.
Nice. Great to have you.
Perfect. Guys, I'm Ryland. My goal is to completely make bookkeeping autonomous. So I have an accounting firm, and I started the accounting firm about 7 years ago. We've grown it, it's now a national firm. We work with about 700 clients. Every single one of those clients uses QuickBooks Online. I hate it. It sucks. And so, over the years, I've grown very frustrated with QuickBooks, and about 2 years ago, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna redo this. I'm gonna make it something different. So right now, I'm working on a company called Switchbooks. It's active. We have clients right now, and basically what Switchbooks does is it's a very kind of simplified version of QuickBooks with a chat bar that allows you to interact with your accounting through kind of a ChatGPT interface. So what I like to describe it as, it's kind of like ChatGPT and QuickBooks had a baby. And that's what I've been working on, and that's what I spend 100% of my time and effort on.
Nice. Awesome. So good to have you here. So I had a bunch of questions that I prepared a few weeks ago, but things are moving so fast that I think it's just helpful to just talk about what's coming alive, right? Even this weekend, there was a lot of great talk, for example, at this AI in education panel about a lot of the initial flashy use cases for AI or maybe naive use cases for AI in education. Everything just needs a chatbot. I think people are moving on from that. I think a term like boring AI is emerging amongst peers of mine as well. I want you to just riff here. What do you think about? What do you think about are the actual highest value use cases that are emerging as people that are seeing and seeing like what is actually useful in helping a lot of businesses. So, Ryland, why don't you start? Well, actually, no, you have the mic. Michael, why don't you start?
Yeah, I would say, well, first, like a personal reason is, or a personal use case that I've found helpful is like reducing the cognitive overhead of the day-to-day. So if it's personal or in your business, just having something like an OpenClaw you can text to kind of like have a dossier of all the relationships, a personal CRM. I think that's something that is overlooked a lot and is probably the simplest you could do to get started without getting too deep into your business.
So everyone has relationships that are critical to their business. You're basically saying, like, if you don't know what to do with OpenClaw, make it a personal relationship management agent. Do you want to just like touch on it a little bit more, and if anyone wants to add on that?
Yeah, like I know like my brother kind of has this system right now set up in Obsidian where whenever he meets somebody, he has like a graph of every node in his network.
And what's Obsidian?
Obsidian is essentially like a markdown editor. You can think of like a local Notion if you've used
What's Markdown?
It's a file type that like you can use like hashtags for headers and things like that. But yeah, every time he meets somebody new, he'll throw that into his agent to sort of like put into his Obsidian, and now he has like this growing graph of each node in the network and also like the strength of each node, so he knows how many degrees removed he is away from maybe somebody he'd want to meet, and then if he needs to ask, hey, I'm looking to talk to somebody that's in marketing for, or like knows YouTube strategy or something like that, it can check the graph and see like how many degrees removed away a node would be, and tell him like who would be the best person to reach out to first.
So practically speaking, if you hook up an Obsidian well-organized personal relationship, like database of markdown files, you can ask your OpenClaw maybe through WhatsApp or Telegram, hey, tell me about, who would be relevant for this upcoming project that I want to work on.
Yes.
Wow. Anyone else on this panel doing anything like that in terms of tracking their relationships a lot better with AI, markdown files, that kind of thing?
I am. So mine's kind of like, when you say relationships, I'm going to use that very loosely. I've been able to do it based on projects that I'm working on. So the code session, I want to understand how it relates across that project. What did I do today versus yesterday versus the previous day, etc. So going back to Obsidian, essentially it's a second brain. And has anybody in here like heard of the second brain concept? It was, I think, Tiago Forte. Is that how you say his name?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So I kind of dug into that and tried to create from there. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Ross, you want to add anything?
No, go ahead.
So Rostam, I want you to riff on, back to the original question, boring but high value use cases of AI, of applying AI to businesses.
Boring, such an interesting word.
You're like everything's so exciting.
So I'm a big proponent of creativity is the currency of the future. That's been a saying that I coined last year in January, and it's like whatever you can dream of, you can create. And so you have to dream big and you have to dream creatively in order to not create boring things. And so what does that mean for businesses? Businesses have three functions. It's retain customers, it's reduce churn, and then it's increase profitability. And so you start from those spaces and then you build from there in creative ways. You look at what other people are doing and then you basically try and figure out niche ways to build products or services that would set you apart from everyone else.
Nice, beautiful. And look, I'm sure you can make accounting feel exciting, but I feel like you're like the chief, person that can speak to this concept.
Are you calling it business?
Carol of accounting. No, just kidding. So when it comes down to chatbots, everyone in this room is kind of the top 1% of the 1% in terms of where we're at with AI and how we're thinking ahead. But in terms of the general public, everyone's used to ChatGPT. Everyone's used to, asking Gemini questions and so on and so forth. The next step for the general public would basically be to allow the chatbot to do more for them. that will accompany them in any app that they're in, right? So whether it's like Webflow and they're developing their website, nobody wants to resize a window. You just want to say, I want this to be smaller. The same thing, is true for bookkeeping, and that's where I'm going to come in, because I think in that regard, I'm a bit of an expert. And really what that means is, instead of telling your bookkeeper on what to do, you just tell the chat and your accounting is done for you. To me, that is kind of the theme of the future. Less chatbots, more power, more agents. Basically, tell them what you want, whether you're in QuickBooks or some other app, and it's going to get done for you. And then you're going to have a little autonomous mode slider where you can determine, is this going to run on my behalf, kind of like an OpenClaw? Is it going to have a bit of a heartbeat and a cron, or is it going to just be something that I determine when I send that message? To me, that's the future for the general public.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you make it so that the actual results of your things that you speak into a specialized chatbot, the results are actually good, right? Can you all speak about the importance of being a domain expert or partnering with someone deeply on that if you're an engineer that may not have the domain expertise?
Yeah, just really quick, and then I'll pass the mic up. It's really tools. So tools are the answer, and every company.
What do you mean by that?
So I mean, when you're asking a chatbot what to do for your app, basically what happens is you have non-native and then you have native tools, and they're all basically just sending a JSON input into your code base and then returning whatever action. And they're going to say, was it a success or was it a failure? So one tool could be planning, one tool for accounting would be creating a vendor. And then one tool would be maybe checking the work to make sure that comes back as a success. That's then relayed to the user through the message. The user doesn't see anything, right? They just say, create a vendor. That goes into the chat, it has multiple iterations, multiple loops. It determines whether that's a success or failure, and then it bounces back to the user. Done. This vendor is updated. That little interaction is going to replace everything in terms of, I'm speaking about accounting, it's going to replace everything in terms of accounting. So you're just going to tell it what to do, it's going to do it, it's going to check its own work, and then it's going to get back to you. And that's been my main interactions with tool calling. Tool calling is the future, for sure.
Well, so how did you, and I don't want to hear from everyone this, but how do you even design tools that are useful for that particular user journey, right? And related to accounting, for example.
Yeah, that's a great question. Everything comes down to the simplest tool possible. Atomic is like the word for it. So basically, if I am a bookkeeper and you say, hey, do my accounting for me. Okay, that's really broad. I don't know what that means.
You got to break it down into testable, specific units of work.
That's exactly right. So if I'm a bookkeeper, I can't just do accounting. I don't know what that means. I'm going to go and I'm going to pull up a P&L. That's one atomic tool. I'm going to view it just like a human would do. And then I'm going to see what's going on within the P&L. I'm going to analyze it. That detail is going to flow back from the LLM, loop, and then basically analyze the P&L and get back to the user. If you tell me to create a journal entry or do a reconciliation, these are all like very kind of micro steps that the user would have to go, or a normal human would have to go through. And those just have to be replicated by the AI. And once it has a list of atomic tools, 1,000 different tools, it determines which of the tools it's going to use and in what order. And that's really the beauty of it. That's when it gets crazy.
Jordan, I know that you probably built a lot of agents and tools for Blade. You've been working with them for 6 months. Maybe it's also a great opportunity to explain how did you even start that relationship and what you've noticed about what has built trust with them, where they give you more and more, they're happily giving you more of the systems engineering work that they couldn't figure out without you.
Yeah. So, they are a client of a client, and so essentially I came in to do a very specific job. For the past decade, I've worked as a data consultant of sorts. Pixels, websites, conversion tracking, attribution, all that stuff that the media team needs in order to justify spending $100,000 a month on meta ads, right? So I build systems around that. Adding to what he said, everything he said was spot on, but going to a 30,000 foot view, I would say the way to start building tools that you can actually use in your business is literally going to a tool like Cloud Desktop, enabling the Asana connector. This is what I did. Drop the actual task link ID to that into Claude Desktop and say, hey, I need to build a project around this. Build out your local project, give it the tools it needs, and start going from there. I have a boilerplate that I use every single time that I start a new project. I build it with those directories and subfolders, and so everything nice and neatly fits into that. So uniformity is a very, very important part of it. And then test. You don't have to push to production. 90% of what I've learned as an AI native builder has been through doing 100 plus projects, and only 20, 30 of those see the light of day. And I'm okay with that, because the idea is use the project to learn the next thing. Where are you? What direction do you need to go? Where's your weakness? And you just build from there.
Wow. Someone that has had a lot of reps, Rostam, you want to riff on any of the topics that we talked about?
So I love that you said that it's more of an exploratory tool where you're taking this problem and you're trying to figure out a solution with the intelligence of the models. To add on to that, I also do, I spawn 5 sub-agents to do unique approaches to the problem, and then see what the commonalities and what the differences are, and then basically choose my approach from there, because a lot of them will have slight differences, and one might be better than the other. So there's that.
So just to break it down, like you, as a metaphor, you're asking 5 of your smartest friends that would be relevant to ask on this topic, and then seeing what the commonalities of their best answers are, and then coming up with the answer to try first from that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm making the decision at the end of the day. I'm not allowing AI to drive. It's more of a tool for me to use to explore different options of different approaches. And then also the differences are very interesting, because those are where the uniqueness lives. And you ask different models as well. Like you can go through Grok, you can go through Claude, you can go through all these different models, and they're all going to give you a different flavor of that answer. And so you're learning to how to build a system. And then going back to your original question, which is like subject matter experts, I work with a lot of clients, and I have no idea what they're talking about. But I sit with them.
Early on, you don't.
Yeah, early on I don't. So it depends on what I'm replacing. So for instance, if it's like a government contractor and they're doing satellite imagery and they're trying to help analysts analyze and then basically do a first round draft of it, and then they do the final analysis, well, I need to sit with that analyst, and I need to understand how they process things. What do they normally click on? What are they looking at? How do they make determinations? If they're looking at something, how do they find something adjacent that's potentially related and make the analysis off of that? So it's like you really have to sit down with these subject matter experts, learn exactly how they do things, and then you can go through and replicate that process.
Amazing.
But also system prompts. I mean, like you give it a persona, obviously. And so those are super important, because they do, in this vector space, they point people in the right direction. They give more targeted answers. Whereas if you didn't use something very targeted, it would have a lot of variability.
Cool. Michael, anything you want to add?
Yeah, on the expertise thing, I sort of think about it as like you are your own customer and you are a business, so you probably know more about how your business works and know the sauce more than other people. And so, for example, like through AITX, the newsletter automation I made for like creating the newsletter now came out of like over 2.5 years of me like writing it a very specific way and prompting it to actually give me the output. Another example would be something I'm building right now that I told some of you guys about, which is like sponsorship outreach. And so like, what is the process of actually reaching out to a sponsor, and like, what do they need to know? And I have experience doing that. So if you are a business owner, you would be the person that would actually know what you want the AI to do. And so probably would want someone like Rostam to come in and then just sit with them and make a business process for how each tool is called, what's the order, and everything like that. So I think that's definitely the importance of a subject matter expert.
Jordan, you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add something like trying to simplify what these guys are saying is brilliant. There's a piece of getting ready to work with someone like Rostam, right? Everybody has that anxiety where they're like, well, I don't want to like feel completely incompetent before I reach out to this guy. Well, you can use tools to be ready for the meeting with him. And what I would do is something like a granola. Has anybody heard of granola, or just Otter, or any of these note-taking?
Yeah, it's just a way for you to talk to your computer and it transcribes.
Right. So it could be a Zoom meeting, it could be just talking to it directly, or What I like to do is do a screen recording showing the process that I'm an expert at, and then having a transcription breakdown generated by AI of every single one of those steps. Someone like him could take that and then turn it into process, turn it into code. But starting from a blank slate is one thing, starting from like a framework where it's like, hey, I have the exact process, you can see every button click. And I think AI is going to be able to pick up on the screen recording and be like, oh, I can build a process around just the screen recording. That's like a couple months away probably.
100%.
So you mentioned tools. I think the other big part here is memory management and context management. So if the business needs to remember something, you need to, if it's temporal or it's like static, or like for instance, if it's a healthcare company, they need to know about your biomarkers. They need to know about, okay, you said you're on statin now, and so all the recommendations in the future need to know about that. So you really need to coordinate your memory structure appropriately to have the system answer in a high quality way. And then context management, you can't throw everything into context, so you need to extract. And then how do you summarize? These are all key components to actually making a high quality system.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I'm curious to have you riff on this. Like for me in building these systems, it's given me a lot of realizations about leadership and the importance of setting good context for humans that you work with, and like that you do have to distill things, but also not clear out important specific context about that. You can't just say, oh, they have some kind of medication that they need, right? So has working with agents taught you a bit about like leadership and how to work with other people? Michael's
I mean, if you have something.
No, go for it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like having a lot of patience and not getting frustrated when it's not doing what you tell it to, and I think that's like, and I think really patience, and then also my attention, because I think the assumption when I first started using these tools was like, oh, you could just set it, forget it, and it's not really going to be a problem, and you can do that sometimes, but really like I try to stay very involved in the process so I don't lose track of what's going on and stay in the driver's seat instead of getting to the point where you're letting the model basically start to write all this code for you, and then you lose track of like what you're doing. So I'd say patience and then focused attention are two big things that it's kind of like taught me to like develop more.
Cool.
I'd say for business leaders, it's about explaining concepts without getting too technical. So like you have to be able to explain what a vector database is in a layman term that they would understand, and that's
What's a vector database?
Well, it turns strings into numbers. It
What's a
turns
string?
text into numbers, and then it does a similarity search. And so that's super important for.
That didn't help at all.
I know.
I know. You don't.
But yeah, just explain concepts. I would say, and then also, business leaders get a lot of pressure to implement AI, but they sometimes just want to throw AI into systems that don't necessarily need AI, or it doesn't maximize the ROI of building that system. And so you really have to analyze where their weakness is and what the problem is in order to build from there.
A couple of things come to mind. So what he's talking about is a translator, and you have to be able to translate either as a business person trying to talk to a coding agent, or a developer trying to talk back to a business owner. There's like this bridge that needs to exist, and I think that there's plenty of room for everybody. So there's the idea person, and then there's the builder, and you need both on your team. They don't, even though there's a lot of pressure out there right now for everybody to be both, you don't have to be. So don't ever feel like you have to be great at both of those things. And then to his point about people throwing AI into any business, there's like this meme that I saw a long time ago. It was a bar of soap, and it had a pump on top of it, like just a raw pump on top of it. It was like businesses randomly adding AI to their business. Just wash your hands with the bar of soap. What are we doing? So anyways, I think that essentially anybody can use these tools, but you have to find your lane. It's like Michael Jordan on the baseball field isn't the same as Michael Jordan on the basketball court. Like You don't have to be good at everything. Just find what you are good at and stick to it, and then build teams around it and hand it off. I think that collaboration isn't going to be a sign of weakness in the future or anything. It's going to be more a sign of intelligence, and people who have too much ego around, hey, I have to do it all, I'm a one-man army, it's going to be hard for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when I was building the AI side of my app,
And for the people that just came in, what is the app?
replacing QuickBooks with basically the ability for AI to do everything on your behalf.
For accounting.
For accounting, yeah, bookkeeping and accounting. But when I was building the agent side, I used Claude Code, and I love Claude Code. It's been great. But the issue with Claude Code, or any sort of like IDE, or whatever you're using, Cursor, Windsurf, whatever, is that it will overload your product with code. It's kind of obvious, right? Like, it's meant to help you with coding, and I ran strips and strips and strips, and over the course of about a week, the agent side of my code base was like 100,000 lines of code. And I was like, what's going on? And so I realized at that time that basically it was trying to account for everything that a user could possibly say, which meant that the context window is getting overloaded. So back to the original question, which was like, what can we learn from people? People are the same way. No one wants to be overloaded with information, right? That's the terrible way to do a job. What people want is a finite set of rules, and then they want to use their reasoning on their own. Maybe have a little instruction here and there. But it went from 100,000 to about 200 lines of code. And it performed literally 1,000 times better. It was actually unbelievable. Really simple architecture, and yet the improvements were insane. To the point where it's like doing things, and I'm like, how is this possible? How could it? And I have to go trace back through. So anyway, when it comes to AI versus like how humans learn, it's kind of the same thing. No one here wants to be overloaded with instruction. We want to be able to have a clear set of instruction and then go from there and use our own brains to determine what the best result is. So it's just one little thing that I've learned along the way that kind of stuck with me, and it made me just rewrite everything.
Perfect segue into self-improving AI systems. So in this case, you had 1,000 lines, 2,000 lines of code that were able to be distilled into
100,000 lines of code. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
100,000 to 200.
Yeah, 100,000 to 200. A meta, like a trend on social media, is the ability to auto-run, auto-research how a particular AI system can be better at achieving its objective. Jordan, have you seen the Karpathy auto-research stuff? Have you played with it? Can you translate that to the audience? And then anyone else want to weigh in on that?
I've got like a real world example. So there's a couple of things here. You can run this thing called a cron job, which is a loop, and Ralph loops were popular 3 weeks ago. It's funny how fast this stuff moves. I think the main thing is I can shout out Apify. I built a tool that watches me code and then gives me suggestions on skills, agents, hooks, etc. that I can use as a plugin into that same code base. So the idea...
So you created a coding coach, essentially.
Essentially. So the idea is if I can solve it once, I can save it and then reuse that tool at a later date. And so that's how I'm doing like the self-improvement piece. There's much more sophisticated ways to do it that I'm sure these guys are using. But essentially, if I'm solving a problem in real time, I should be able to then save that as a checkpoint and say, okay, not only can I use this again in this project since it's a plugin, I can plug it into other coding projects that I'm a part of as well. So you solve it once and use it
Powerful.
multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about like the self-improvement loop that I've built, or that I like to build, is you're gathering data on all the responses from each user. If you're using Langsmith, you can use an annotation data set and you can thumbs up, thumbs down it. That gets annotated as like a positive response, negative response. Well, that's one way to do it, and then you basically take those bad responses, you take all the levers of your system. So whether it be the vector database, whether it be your system prompt, whatever it is in your system, you take all of those and you run it through an LLM to say, what can I do to these levers? How can I pull these levers in order to improve the output to what I want it to be? And you can run that in a cycle over and over and over again. And yeah, you'll get some interesting insights from that. The other one is, I think that's it actually.
Is it like a judge?
Yeah, so it's LLM as a judge, but you're basically trying to update your own system engineer design to better align with outcomes you want.
Michael, you want anything to that?
Yeah, I can talk about, there's a skill for my OpenClaw I'm making right now, because I started like posting on TikTok and Instagram, so I was like, I want to get better at this. And what I'm going to do, and what I'm currently building right now, is a skill that will use Apify to scrape social media, my social accounts, grab like the first thumbnail image, analyze that with a vision model, and also get the transcript from the videos and look at the stats on the views, and then just store all of that into its memory. And then over the course of time, it'll just tell me like, hey, these videos do better, these videos don't do better. And it kind of takes me away from like having to open up my phone and like look at videos and be like, what did I say here, what did I say here? And I can start to see like a common trend between like the things that do well and don't. So that's like, if you're a business that leverages social media or you're an influencer, that might be useful for you.
Thanks.
How far away are we from businesses that generate revenue that you basically day-to-day have zero input on, that is needed? I know that you're like in the process of trying to figure that out for yourself right now, Rostam.
Yeah,
so that's why you're laughing.
This is my weekend project. So I run a consulting firm, and on the side, I have clients giving me work through Linear. They'll give me tickets that they want done, and then I will basically just paste that in the Claude code, go back and forth, and I was like, well, why do I need to do that? Why can't I just connect Linear to the system and then have it do it all? So that was my project this weekend, and it's running right now, and the client's super happy because now we're running at a pace that's extremely fast and determined by him. Now the cool thing about the system is that it goes into QA, so it has its own GitHub, it has its own Vercel access as well. So it can open PRs, and then I go in and I review it, and then I merge it. It deploys any comment that my client makes on that ticket. It gets picked back up by the system, fixes it, deploys another fix. And so this loop is basically just the client talking to specialized agents. Now, under the hood, I've done a lot of systems engineering to make this possible. There's a front-end engineer, there's a back-end engineer, there's a security, there's an architect, there's like all these skills. So I'm building the infrastructure, and then he's connecting to it.
So when you say front-end, blah, 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 all these different engineers, you're saying agents that have personas, right?
A full engineering team. Yes, and personas.
They're not humans.
No, they're agents.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So my first iteration of building something similar is I'm trying to solve it for a large client that I have, and they work and operate in Slack. So I was able to set up basically a Claude Code loop within Slack with its own bot that they can also ask questions to. So has anybody ever said, hey, I want to build XYZ, I have this idea, but I don't necessarily want to be the person building it, right? So that's what this Slack bot is for. They drop in ideas, I categorize which ones are doable, we escalate that to management, they say yay or nay, and since it has direct access to Claude Code and that machine is running 24/7, essentially using the organized AI framework, I can build out a brand new local project and at least get started, right? So getting all the way to production and running the entire system, that's a whole separate ball game. And I do think that that's coming in the future from builders like Rostam and et cetera. I'll probably build mine out further as well. But the main thing and the empowering part from that is, yes, we can solve for this, but it doesn't have to be my ideas. It can be the client's ideas. It can be a random person on the street's ideas. It could be an idea from anywhere. And you never know the value of an idea until it's built out, pretty much.
So get those reps in.
That's it.
Try to
Get the reps in.
Ryland.
So the question was, when do we think a business can basically run itself completely?
Riff on all things self-improvement businesses.
I think we're here. I mean, for certain businesses, I think we're already here. Like when I see, kind of the abilities of what I've been working on, it's doing everything that a bookkeeper would do. So yeah, I think it's done.
I feel like we have like the most like optimistic about self-improvement business panel ever, and that's super exciting to me. Like yesterday I was giving a talk about. I mean the days are blending. I've been saying this throughout the past few days that the North Star is infinitely scalable, valuable product. And you can only achieve that if you have basically a self-running business where you're like the benevolent dictator that's like, these are the goals of this business system. Anyone want to riff on that? I know we started riffing on that, but if anything is coming up for anyone with that thought, feel free to riff on it with me.
Restate the question.
Thank you.
Well, what's the role of the visionary that is setting the markdown files in the system's architecture?
Yeah.
Like it feels like there's a lot laying on those person's shoulders, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you for that. So I think that there's oh man, how do I say this nicely? There's people who are getting reps in on these systems, and there's people who refuse to. They'll say things like it's not safe, I don't know, I don't trust it, blah blah blah. A million reasons, I get it, right? But then I think about history and watching history repeat itself. I'm sure people said the same thing, horse and buggy, when Model T was first introduced, right? You're either going to benefit from these things or not. And it really boils down to how much have you built, and do you understand what quality even looks like whenever you're building? And the only way you get to quality is through having some, beginner period into intermediate, into professional. You want to get through that loop as soon as possible with a steady pace. And so I guess what I'm saying is your ideas should be able to go into a Slack, into a Telegram, into a Linear, and be able to come out the other side as a finished idea at some point, right? You might get to a certain stage of that process and then need to be more hands-on, but the autonomy is coming as far as if I have the most amount of ideas, then I can get the most out of mine. I watched this video about Prince this morning and how he has this crazy vault of 10 years worth of music, like run time, 10 years worth of music in a vault because his work ethic was so crazy.
What?
And so the ability to build a system around the thing that you're trying to master, in his case music, he had a system that went into recording music that allowed him to be one of the GOATs. I mean, it's between him and
Wow.
MJ. It's
Wow.
between him and MJ, don't fight me, right? But I would say...
He had a Prince shirt on yesterday.
Yeah, there you go. So I think that that's where we're going towards. If you're not getting reps in, if you're not finding out what quality looks like for you and finding your signature in this new economy, everybody's got their
Your
own
fingerprint, your unique fingerprint.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
Let's go.
Jordan.
So it's like architecture, it's like a painter, it's like your favorite novelist. You read their stuff, you know their stuff. And if you're just stuck on generic because you're a beginner, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll talk a little bit about the visionary piece of it. I think humans are super creative, but you can also embed that into the systems. So I don't know if, I think we're close to getting a self-improving business in the sense that, for instance, I think it was Japan, they did the germ and they put it on this like system of like a map of the most populated cities, and then they found the most efficient way to build the train system. We've taken things from nature, for instance, like the bird. There's a bird that travels really fast, and they made it into a train, and so then they found that out. And so if you can like start to build systems that think in this space you can then ask it questions, for instance, like, I don't know, I made one where it took the top 20 investors in the world and scraped all their data, put it into a database, and then basically have a panel of like 5 or 10 people give it a trading strategy or give it the economy of today, give it access to news, give it access to stock tickers, give it access to options, etc., dark pools, whatever, and then have it come up with a trading idea for 10 days, 30 days, 60 days out. And so the idea here is that, and then you have a moderator because things get a little weird. But the idea is that you can build these systems that will give you a high quality output that can help guide your decision of where to go next. I hope I pieced that well.
Yeah, that's good.
Totally.
Yeah, I would say another role of the visionary, kind of getting back to also Jordan's point about making a skill to sort of like see what you're doing in your workflows. I think auditing how you work and the best way that you work is super important. So trying to identify like the biggest bottleneck at this current time and only focusing on that and really trying to figure out what would it look like if that bottleneck was removed, and then use the help of AI to actually remove it. And I think just doing that over time, removing each bottleneck, you start to have a compounding effect going. So I think that's another important piece. Yeah.
I'm just so appreciative of the men on this panel. And I was with the mayor of Austin 3 days ago, and we were talking about how Austin is already the applied AI capital of the world, but it's just given the talent density and like the kind of people that Austin seems to attract, it is just going to continue to be a gravity well for this kind of thing. Do y'all agree? What are your thoughts about that? Why are you here in Austin, Texas?
Well, I was brought here by Gauntlet AI.
Shout out Gauntlet.
Shout out Gauntlet. They're an intensive, I think they're now at 6 weeks, 100-hour per week AI first development program. So you're not writing any code, you're just prompting and building agents. And so they brought me out to Austin, and I've stayed just because the community of AI developers is massive here. It is San Francisco before San Francisco. There's so many meetups. There's so many people working on awesome projects that just want to chat. Go to Capital Factory and you'll see that. And so that's what's kept me here.
Nice. Amazing.
I would say tacos have kept me and barbecue. And barbecue. That part. Anyways, no, Austin's just been a great opportunity for someone like me. I come from a finance background. I told you guys about the data side of things. I've been running my own thing for a decade. Wow, that's crazy to say. But yeah, Unk status. The thing is like transitioning into AI over the past couple years has been really interesting because the first AI event I ever went to where I met Michael was a Meta hackathon at their headquarters. So talk about feeling like a fish out of water. I pop up and I'm like, what is this? What is deployment? How do you use Cursor? What's an IDE? What's everything? I don't know, right? And I think the AI community is very, very kind when it comes to newcomers, eyes open, ears open, trying to figure out what's what and how to approach things. And that's really the game, is you have to get good at the approach and build on top of it. So Austin's great for that. Yeah.
Pretty much what everybody said, right? The weather, the people, the tax rate. That's why I'm here, and it's been a great place to be.
Nice. I'll say, well, like the first thing, I remember talking about this with a friend that I met in Austin, and one of the core commonalities I find with a lot of people that are in Austin are that we all came from different places. So there's like this shared context that we all came to sort of like do something more with our life. So I think that's one thing I really like. When I moved here, I did not have AITX community yet, but after starting it and being super appreciative of the state and of Austin and all the people I've met, I just feel like the community aspect is like a really big piece for me. And my goal is to like make that an even bigger community, a place where there can be more opportunities so more people can come in. So that's kind of the main reason. I think just the shared context that we are not like from here, most of us, at least like people I know. And I think there's a higher signal to noise ratio here versus like larger cities because it is still growing, that it's easier to find the people in different pockets. So yeah.
Amen. So what I'm going to do is just say, if you have any questions for any of these wonderful panelists, we'll have them shuffle out into the kind of lobby area on this floor, and you can obviously go wherever after that. But there's another panel coming soon. But hope that you've enjoyed. Hope that you learned something. The future is very bright. I want to summarize. The future is very bright if you really believe that you can learn new things, and that if you find the right people that embrace your dumb questions. There's no dumb questions. Like, one of our taglines at Applied AI Society, which hosts events for people that want to share field notes with each other, is that no one knows what's going on. So if you're at where Jordan was at 2 years ago, where he had never written a line of code, but he was like willing to go deep in these technologies, and then you come to AITX events, come to organized AI events, come to Applied AI Society events, move to Austin if you have to, because this is the best place to reinvent yourself and build the future of humanity. So thank you so much to all our panelists. Take a photo of this, of everyone's names, connect with them on LinkedIn. These are some of the best, and it was such an honor to be able to speak with them today.